That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, my dudes, I am so excited to go through, talk about our 2021 running back rankings. Football is so close to being here. We are so close to drafts. So, of course, it's going to be extremely important to know what you are going to be doing in those drafts, which is why you definitely need to come out to the live streams with us every single night where we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy. Every single night, this channel will be live. We will be drafting. I hope that you get in those drafts with us. If you want to get in a draft with us, make sure you go to the link in the description, go to Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK. And what is unbelievable for this upcoming year is I don't know how we managed to do it, but we actually got Underdog Fantasy, which is, in my opinion, the best place to draft in 2021. We got them to sponsor our 2021 draft guide, where if you deposit $10 on Underdog, they are giving you a $25 bonus, and you are getting our 2021 draft guide. So many people are selling their draft guides, which I would argue ours is better than, for $60, $50 that you'll never see again. All I'm asking you to do is take advantage of this ridiculous deal that we have with Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. You're not even spending $10. You're moving $10 over from one account to Underdog Fantasy, where you can hop in some real money fantasy football drafts. I would love for you to do that. You can become a way better drafter. You can draft with us in a live stream. So yeah, please make sure you take advantage of that. Get our 2021 draft guide. And also, right before we get into the video, YouTube released a ridiculous new feature that I have no idea how it works. If you have an idea, please let me know. But it's called a subscribe button. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I think if you hit that subscribe button down there where it has that little thumbs up that you should also hit right next to it, it will probably just make you a better fantasy football player overall. And it will also help this channel a ton. I don't know exactly how that subscribe button works, but make sure you go down there, test it out, hit that for me. And let's jump into this with our running back one in Christian McCaffrey. Okay, so nobody's going to be surprised. Nobody is even really going to need to hear my explanation on why CMC is the running back one overall. Now, what I want to look at is the fact that we have Christian McCaffrey in his own tier. There is not a single running back that you could ever consider drafting over CMC. Now, of course, we laid this all out in our draft guide, but what is so important with Christian McCaffrey is that for a PPR format, this is a running back that literally is built like nobody else. You look at that 2019 season from Christian McCaffrey, and it was one of the best seasons you have ever seen for fantasy football purposes. Now you go through, you look at the fact that CMC is getting close to 3.5 red zone rushes a game. Guys, 3.5 red zone rushes a game for Christian McCaffrey, a running back that's also seeing close to 9 targets a game. You do not see that type of usage for a player on an NFL offense. And if you do see that type of usage, usually they're getting used so much, they're not going to remain their efficiency. They're going to see a slight dip down. You're going to expect their yards per carry to go further, and you're not going to see the elite efficiency sustain. Well, with CMC, he handled this workload in 2019. He came out and had close to 150 total yards a game throughout the entire year. This isn't some small sample 4-game stretch that we're looking at. Christian McCaffrey has already showed us that he can do what no other running back can come close to. And if we take a step back, because we always know you can't just focus in on one season, you have to look at the bigger picture beyond that. Christian McCaffrey in 2018 as well, he was the running back 2 in fantasy, and he did this with kind of the same usage in the receiving game. He had almost 8 targets a game, and this is a running back that was only in his second year in the NFL. So his second year in the NFL, he comes out, he's the running back 2 in fantasy. His third year, he is the best running back that we have seen in the past decade for fantasy football purposes in a PPR format. And in 2020, there were some question marks given the fact that they changed their entire coaching staff. They have both Joe Brady and Matt Rule coming in. We don't necessarily know how they plan on using Christian McCaffrey, and we got a very small sample. I will say you have to be careful about a small sample when you're trying to extrapolate it through the entire season. But in that small sample that we had, Christian McCaffrey had over 30 fantasy points per game. These were games that he was leaving early due to injury with. So the play did not fall off in the slightest. You were still seeing an elite workload, especially in the receiving game and the red zone, which is exactly what you're looking for. Now he's going to be playing in an offense, which I've said this on Twitter before, but Sam Darnold possibly could be the best quarterback that Christian McCaffrey's ever played with. Now, I'm of the opinion that prime Cam Newton was fantastic. Prime Cam Newton, absurd on a completely different level. But CMC came into the NFL at 17 years old. Cam Newton, if you remember him in 2017, 2018, 2019, he's not the Cam Newton that won the MVP. He's not the Cam Newton that came out of Auburn into the league and set it on fire. It was a completely different player that really had nothing going on, and Christian McCaffrey led that offense. Now, I understand Sam Darnold has looked horrendous in New York, and I'm not saying that Sam Darnold is better than even a washed-up Cam Newton. But what I am saying with Sam Darnold is this coaching staff thought he was good enough to go through, pay the entire Teddy Bridgewater contract, still paying Teddy Bridgewater, move him to Denver for literally nothing, then pay a second-round pick to go get Sam Darnold from New York. So please take note of the fact that this coaching staff, this team, thinks that Sam Darnold is possibly the best quarterback that you've actually ever seen Christian McCaffrey play with. So I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility. CMC is the 101. If you ever are playing in a league and you see someone draft any other player, I don't care what the format is, if they draft someone over Christian McCaffrey, what I need you to do is take out a little notepad, write down, okay, Joe Schmo, who had the number 1 overall pick, he took Derrick Henry. He does not know what he's doing. We're going to send him offers all year. We are going to harass him every single week with trade offers because we'll probably rip him off because he's not paying attention. Now let's go to our next running back. And in my opinion, another running back that has no red flags. So he's going to be in his own tier at number 2. It's really funny if you go look at our draft guide, look at our rankings on Patreon. I mean, you're going to see it broken down by tiers, and you're going to see, okay, tier 1, Christian McCaffrey. Tier 2, Dalvin Cook. And then tier 3 has like 9 players in it because these are clearly the top 2 options. You can't put them in the same tier. But anyway, here with Dalvin Cook, he actually has back-to-back finishes as a top 3 running back in fantasy on a per-game basis. And he's done this with just a 3-down workhorse workload, came in that same NFL draft in 2017 as Christian McCaffrey, got the mega extension that you were looking for last offseason, and he's playing in an offense that doesn't have that much changing with it. And we actually know that back when you actually had Dalvin Cook drafted to the Minnesota Vikings in 2017, 2018, this was a running back that was playing behind an elite offensive line. I mean, that was one of the strengths of Minnesota, where they had a great offensive line, they had a great defense. Well, they actually kind of got away from that this past year, where in 2020, the offensive line didn't necessarily live up to the expectations that it had set from the years prior. Yet this didn't stop Dalvin Cook from going out, averaging over 130 total yards a game. And what is so important is when they get to the red zone, this team is looking to hand the ball off to Dalvin Cook. They give him over 4 rush attempts a game just in the red zone. So yeah, Dalvin Cook, he has elite touchdown potential. You have literally no red flag circulating him, as he's been a healthy running back through the past 2 years. The offense looks like it's going to get better with the offensive line, just investments that they made this offseason. So yeah, Dalvin Cook at the 102, a really easy answer. And now at the 103, this is where you're going to find some deviation. Okay, so we personally have Alvin Kamara. Now, a big reason I have Alvin Kamara here is, while I understand, guys, I mean, the change from Drew Brees is a major red flag. I think that once you get past those top 2 running backs, all of the running backs in this next tier, they are all littered with red flags, which is why, actually, if you pull up my rankings right now, the overall rankings on Patreon, you're going to find that we have Devontae Adams ranked at 3 overall. We have Alvin Kamara ranked at 4 overall. We made that adjustment based on training camp, really sounding like they may be using Taysom Hill a lot going into the year. If we just assume that Jameis Winston was the quarterback all season, then you would still expect an elite role for Alvin Kamara in the receiving game, which is why we previously had Kamara at 3, but now we're having to move him to 4 in the overall rankings, but still my running back 3 for a PPR format. Because we go through, and with Alvin Kamara, he is one of the most reliable running backs in fantasy over the past 3 years. So if you look over the past 3 years, Alvin Kamara has been a top 10 running back every single season. And he does this with the targets that he gets out of the backfield. Now with Kamara, you pull up those targets, and he's pretty much consistently averaging 7 targets a game for the past 3 years. Now the concern with Kamara, and I'm going to tell you, all the next running backs that we talk about, they all have red flags. Don't tell me none of them are foolproof. But the concern with Kamara here is the Taysom Hill usage, because you saw Taysom Hill last year when he did replace Drew Brees. It's kind of a Lamar Jackson type player where he's a quarterback that he's going to be looking at his first read. If that's not there, maybe he goes to his second read. And if that's not there, he has the option to tuck it and run it, which is not bad for the New Orleans Saints. Of course, the Saints, if Taysom Hill thinks he can pick up the first down with his legs, I mean, Sean Payton's encouraging to do that. It's not like Sean Payton owns Alvin Kamara in fantasy and is going, oh no, Taysom, if you don't see just Traquan Smith, Michael Thomas, Adam Troutman, whoever's open, we're going to need you to check it down to Alvin Kamara, bud. We got some PPR points here to score. That's not the case. So what you would have with Taysom Hill is he's just going to tuck it and run. He's going to get the first down. No harm, no foul. And what is also concerning with Taysom Hill is the fact that he could have a role in the red zone where we have seen already in seasons where Drew Brees was healthy that they still bring in Taysom Hill in weird packages. So Hill is just a massive red flag. I mean, if Taysom Hill wasn't on the roster, I would actually have Alvin Kamara in consideration to put him over Dalvin Cook, given the fact that there are no weapons whatsoever on this New Orleans Saints team. Just the problem is with Kamara, I mean, Taysom Hill is a major red flag. Now going to our next player. Now we are going to be significantly higher compared to consensus. And if you're coming out to those streams with us every single night, and if you make sure you hit that sub button, I'm sure you can make it out to a stream. Hashtag promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Get your draft guide, get your $25. But anyway, you're seeing us consistently take Saquon Barkley at the end of the first round. And every single time I take Saquon Barkley there, people are saying, well, Mason, are you not concerned with the knee? Mason, are you not concerned with the knee? What if Saquon Barkley is only a 50% snap player for the first 2 weeks? Boo freaking who? What if Saquon Barkley has to split carries for the first 2 weeks of the season? Are 2 weeks going to kill you that bad if Saquon Barkley for that 2-week stretch is instead of an elite running back 1, instead maybe he's a high-end running back 2? You're going to drastically alter your rankings based on that. We're in a PPR format before. We have seen Saquon Barkley come in his rookie season. Saquon Barkley, his rookie year, came in and averaged 24 points per game. We go back and we compare this to Alvin Kamara in 2020. Alvin Kamara was clearly the running back 1 in 2020, and Alvin Kamara actually averages 25 points per game. So a rookie Saquon Barkley just at the very top of the league. You knew this with the player that he was coming out of Penn State. We knew that he was an elite generational prospect at the running back position. Now with Barkley, I understand what I am actually concerned about, and which a lot of people in here should be, is going to be the offensive line play. Currently, you actually have New York as one of the, if not the worst offensive lines in the entire NFL. Now that is the main concern for me with Saquon Barkley, is what happens if this offensive line just can't generate any openings. Saquon Barkley can't get past the line of scrimmage because obviously a running back can only do so much in a poor situation. So like I said, once you get past the Dalvin Cook, every single running back that we are going to mention, they have their red flags. So what we are trying to do with this grouping of running backs that all have their red flags is we're going to go, okay, we're hunting ceiling, because how much does it actually hurt us if we draft a running back here and instead of being a, just say, running back 6 overall, instead he scores 2 points per game less and he's a top, just say 12 running back instead? Maybe that's the case with Barkley because of the poor situation. But at the same time, compared to the other running backs in this tier that don't have the potential to catch as many passes and to vault themselves up to a player, I mean, a player like Christian McCaffrey, I hate to say it, but CMC is just in his own tier. But Saquon Barkley could get there. We know Barkley has the frame to get the usage in the red zone. We know Barkley has exhibited the receiving down capabilities before. I mean, you see this with him as a rookie. He averages 7.5 targets per game. Saquon Barkley as a rookie averages more targets per game than Alvin Kamara has done over the past 3 years. And Saquon Barkley is a monstrous man. So please take that into consideration. And that's why if Barkley falls to you at the end of the first, I think the risk is already baked into that price point so much that I am way willing to draft him there. I'm actually going to have him as a mid-first round pick, which is why I've been drafting him so much when he's falling to the end of the first. So now let's get to our next guy, which I am sure a lot of y'all are screaming at me to mention. Let's talk about Derrick Henry. Okay, so here with Derrick Henry, I understand if you are playing Madden, if you are constructing a team, if you're trying to say, Mason, what running back is going to get the most total yards this upcoming season? Derrick Henry is going to be near the top of that list. Derrick Henry, if you had to ask me who's going to have more yards between Henry, Barkley, Kamara, Derrick Henry's that guy I'm going with. Derrick Henry, of course, is going to have more yards than them. But the thing here is so many people don't understand the difference between fantasy value and the difference between real life value. Now, of course, you want to be drafting talented players. The entire game's about drafting talented players, but you also need to understand the usage that translates over to fantasy production. So with the Derrick Henry here, what is so notable is he crushed, and I mean crushed, every other running back in the NFL last year in rushing yards. And it was to a point where it was so not even close that it's not going to be sustainable. You know, based on when you have those outlier type seasons, they have to come down to earth, even when you are a freak, as Derrick Henry is. So we know that's going to come down to earth. If anybody wants to bet me that Derrick Henry is going to have another 2,000 rushing yard season, it ain't happening, guys. I'm telling you that right now. And to go along with this, we go, okay, well, if Derrick Henry's coming down to earth, what is he coming down to earth from? I mean, what happens if instead of rushing for over 2,000 rushing yards, instead he hits 1,700, instead he hits 1,800? What would happen to his fantasy points per game? Because when he was just an extreme outlier in rushing yards and he crushed the entire NFL, he was still the running back 3 in fantasy. Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook both easily outscored him. Alvin Kamara had 4 points per game more than Derrick Henry. That is a significant difference at the very top of the position. I mean, very rarely are you going to find a 4 points per game difference between running backs here. And in the case of Derrick Henry, it's because he does not get targets out of the backfield. So if you're playing on an underdog with us where it's a half point PPR instead of a full point PPR, or if you're maybe playing in a non-PPR format, there you can adjust this Derrick Henry ranking and you can draft him a little bit higher. Where actually on underdog, I am drafting Derrick Henry over Saquon Barkley for a half PPR format because we go, okay, well, if Barkley is going to catch 70 more balls than Derrick Henry, then all of a sudden you have to do some quick math. You go, okay, well, in a PPR league, that's the difference between 70 points, that's 700 rushing yards. In a half point PPR league, that's the difference between 35 points, that's 350 rushing yards. And the difference is a whole lot less there. So you really have to understand your league format. But if you're playing in a PPR league, Derrick Henry showed us his absolute ceiling last year. And that absolute ceiling was still 4 points per game less than Alvin Kamara, which is a massive difference at the running back position. So actually, I believe that was our top 5 running backs. I was planning on doing a lot more than this, but I really want to be diving a little deeper with this. So maybe what we'll actually do is I'll make another video. Maybe it will be uploaded today. Maybe it will be uploaded tomorrow. Regardless, we're going to make another video because I can't make an hour-long video when we're going to be streaming every single night for like 4 hours. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button. We'll have another video coming out very shortly. And come out to our live streams at night. The number one way you can do that is by subscribing to the channel, hitting the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you know when we go live. And also, please use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy if you want our draft guide with all our rankings, with our tiers. If you also want access to a free $25 with a $10 deposit, promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. And yeah, that's all I got for you, my dudes, and have a great day. We've gotten a ton of new members joining the flock. Thank you, Grind for Gold, Devin, Bungified, Brian, Brody, Victor, Chris, Grant, Trevor, and David. Thank you, my dudes.